All right, part 3. Here we go. So this entire page, section 3.3, evaluating and solving stuff that's on the unit circle. So what I've done is I've kind of, just I copy and pasted unit circle. I don't want to keep flipping back and forth between the last page. So this is what I will be referencing. I'm going to put this in the corner somewhere. Right. So let's just see what happens. Now, the sine of 150 degrees. What you need to do is find your 150 on your unit circle. Actually, before I do anything, what do they want? They want all of our answers to be exact. All right, so these are going to be like radians or degrees. We just have to kind of pay attention to what it's asking. So it's 150 degrees. So the sine value we said is always the y coordinate in this. So don't overcomplicate it. Right, there is your sine value of 1/2. So the sine of 150 is just equal to 1/2, right? It says without a calculator, but just on this first one here, let's pull up the calculator and just do the sine of 150. Right, sine of 150 gives you 0.5 or 1/2, right? So it works. All right. So the cosine now, the cosine of 220. So I'm just going to go ahead and find cosine of 220 on here. Sorry, 225. Cosine of 225 is going to be that first value. That's negative square root of 2 over 2. All right, and that one's done. So I'm not going to be circling this the whole time. Let's go down to the sine of 270. The sine of 270, looking on your unit circle, that's going to give us a -1. The cosecant now of 7 pi over 4. Keep in mind, cosecant goes with the sine. All right, so the cosecant is the reciprocal of the sine. So it's 1 over the sine. So looking for that sine value, what you have to do is look for that 7 pi over 4, flip it upside down. So that's -2 divided by the square root of 2. All right, but we need to fix that. Rationalize the denominator. That's going to give you -2 square root of 2 over 2, which simplifies down to negative square root of 2. All right, so that's your cosecant of 7 pi over 4. Remember, you got to watch out for those reciprocals. All right, over here, we got the tangent of pi over 3. So I'm going to clear this out. The tangent of pi over 3, keep in mind tangent is sine divided by cosine. So first things first, find your pi over 3. That's going to be this guy right here. All right, so it's the sine divided by the cosine. So you have the square root of 3 over 2 divided by 1/2. All right, that gives us square root of 3. Right, so if you kind of want to think about that, we don't divide fractions, you multiply by the reciprocal. So you're going to take that 1/2 on the bottom, flip it upside down, and then multiply straight across. The 2's cancel. You're just left with square root of 3 over 1, if you want to call it that. All right, the next one is the secant of 7 pi over 6. Where is 7 pi over 6? That's right here. All right, so secant matches up with cosine. So look for that cosine value, but flip it upside down because, again, reciprocal. That's -2 over the square root of 3, which rationalizing that, that's going to give us -2 square root of 3 over 3. And that one's done. Now the cosine of 11 pi over 6, that one's just straight up, don't overcomplicate that one. Square root of 3 over 2. And then the tangent of 180 is 0 over -1. Sine over cosine, 0 divided by anything gives us 0. Right? So those first 8 are finished. Let's move on to the next ones. Sine of -pi over 3. So we have to keep in mind, -pi over 3. We need to find a coterminal angle with -pi over 3. All right. So we talked about coterminal angles. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add 2 pi. All right. But, all right, since it's a fraction, we need to make it a common denominator. So instead of thinking of it as 2 pi over 3, think of it as 6 pi over 3. And that gives us 5 pi over 3. All right, so don't think of it as the sine of -pi over 3. Think of it as the sine of 5 pi over 3. right? Those are coterminal angles. So this angle right here, this 5 pi over 3 is the same as negative pi over 3, right? But let's see here. It is the sine, so that's going to be the second value. That equals negative square root of 3 over 2. All right. The cotangent, keep in mind, sine or tangent is sine over cosine. So the cotangent is cosine divided by sine. So on this one, look for 2 pi over 3, right? So you're going to have negative 1/2 divided by square root of 3 over 2. Right? Flip the bottom one upside down, multiply straight through. You're going to have negative 1 over the square root of 3. Right? Rationalize that. You're going to have negative square root of 3 over 3. Right? So that's number 19. That's your cotangent of 2 pi over 3. All right, tangent of 90 degrees. All right, sine over cosine. This is 1 divided by 0. We do not like dividing by 0 in math. All right, bad things happen when we do that. So we're just going to say this is undefined. All right, secant of 240. Find 240 degrees. Here's 240. All right, secant matches up with cosine. So take that cosine value, flip it upside down. So that 1/2 flipped upside down, the negative 1/2 flipped upside down is negative 2 over 1. Moving right along, we have to solve each equation if our angle theta, right? If theta is between 0 and 360. All right, so what we have to do is look for sine values. All right, sine goes with the y value. We need to find those y values that are negative square root of 2 over 2. Right, so there's one. We just need to find the other one. There's the other one. Write down those angle measures. Now, keep in mind, this is degrees. All right, so your answer should be degrees here. So the first one I see is 225. And then the second one, 315. So there's your sine function there. Now we want the tangent of the square root of 3 over 3. This thing doesn't have your tangents on it. That's kind of annoying. So here, I'm going to go back. I'm going to cheat. Because we have our tangents on our unit circle, we might as well use it. All right. What are we looking for? We're looking for a square root of 3 over 3. I see that. Right, I see one right here. And I see another one right here. All right, those are positive numbers. So that one, there's a 210 degree angle, and this one is a 30 degree angle. All right. So look at 30 degree angle and 210. All right, if you want to think about it, it's a positive square root of 3 over 3. That 30 is kind of a reference angle. So, it's just 30 past our 180 degree value there. All right. Next one, moving on. What do we got over here? Secant equals -2. So again, secant matches up with the cosine. All right, so we need to find the cosine. Where is cosine equal to? If we want to kind of do this algebraically, we have, what is that going to be? 1 over negative square root of 2. Notice how that's not on our unit circle anywhere. So let's just go ahead and rationalize the denominator. So this turns into negative square root of 2 over 2. And now we can find that value. And again, we are looking for the cosine of negative square root of 2 over 2. That's going to be this one right here. And where's the other one? Right here. So I'm looking at a 135 degree angle. And then, what is that? 225. 225. Those are the two values here for that one. Here, let's do a little bit more legwork on that one just so I can convince you. It's 1 over cosine equals negative square root of 2 over 1, right? If you just want to think about it, flip both fractions upside down. That's where we're at, right? Then I rationalize the denominator. That's why we, spend so much time rationalizing denominators, because all of the values are rationalized. Every time you look at a unit circle, it is a rationalized number, right? So you're not going to find negative square root of 2 over 1 anywhere on here. I'm sorry, you're not going to find 1 over square root of 2 anywhere on here. All right. So let's see here. Last section, same thing, but you'll notice on this one we have radians. So just make sure, be careful, read the directions, make sure you're doing exactly what they're asking for here. The radians for cosine of 1/2. Remember, cosine x value. So I see a 1/2 right here, and I see another 1/2 right here. What are those radian measures? That's pi over 3, right? And then we have 5 pi over 3. The next one wants to know where tangent is undefined. So remember, tangent is just equal to the sine over the cosine. Right? We get undefined values when our cosine, when the denominator is 0. So we need to figure out, all right, where is the cosine 0? So cosine is 0 up at 90 and down at 270. I'm sorry, at pi over 2, because this is radian. Pi over 2, and then 3 pi over 2. Right. So again, we want the cosine, we need that to be 0, because when we have a 0 in the denominator, that gets us those undefined values here. So that's why we have pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2. All right, and then I got one more here, cosecant. All right, so again, this one is your cosecant. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say this is 1 over the sine. 1 over sine equals negative 2 square root of 3 over 3, right? Here's a trick from algebra 2, or maybe even algebra 1. You have two fractions. Since these are two equivalent fractions, if you flip them both upside down, they remain equivalent. So I'm just going to say, all right, the sine of 1, or I guess the sine of theta, I should put my thetas in here, right, is going to equal, I'm going to keep the negative on top, negative 3 over 2 square root of 3. Right? Since it's over 1, we don't even need that right there. So rationalizing for 3 on bottom and top, going straight across, negative 3 square root of 3 over 6 now, which simplifies to negative square root of 3 over 2. All right, so where is sine equal to negative square root of 3 over 2? I see that right here and right here. All right, so the answers for this one, we're going to have 4 pi over 3. Second one is 5 pi over 3. And that one's done. Those are the two values of theta. All right. I don't know, I feel like I went fast on that, so hopefully that wasn't too fast, but basically it all boils down to using this unit circle, right? Find those values, use your x and your y values. Sometimes like the tangents are kind of curveballs, because you're going to have to divide a few things. The cosecant and the secant, you're going to have to rationalize denominators to figure out what it's going to look like on the unit circle. So those are some things that we need to be aware of, right? But otherwise, that is section 3.3. All right, so we'll see you guys in the next one.